everyone! I'm here to show you how to make your own paper circuit houses. So I've got one here. This is what we're going to end up making. It is a piece of paper that I've attached some copper tape and LEDs and a battery, and when I fold the paper and close the door, you should see our LEDs light up. And there we go, we've got a paper circuit house. So that's what we're gonna work towards. To make your own paper circuit house, you're going to need some copper tape. This is very important. The top side of it is the nice shiny copper and the bottom side is sticky, so it'll stick to the paper. You'll also want an LED, 1 or 2 is great, any color you want, but you want an LED like that. You want a battery, so you'll want a battery just like this one. This is a CR2032, which is a 3-volt coin cell battery, the kind that they use in a lot of watches. So you want a battery like this. You'll also want a binder clip, or I've got a clothespin, either one, to clip the battery onto the page. Also, if you've got some aluminum foil, we'll use that for the switch on the back of the door, like you saw earlier, or you can just use more copper tape. And then you'll want a pair of scissors, some Scotch tape, and a pencil or something else to write with. So once you've got all your stuff, you should be ready to make your paper circuit house. So to get started, let's talk a little bit about the basics of an electric circuit. So let's start with the battery. You know, you've probably seen lots of different kinds of batteries, but you probably noticed that they're usually marked with a positive, like a plus sign, and a negative. So different sides of it will be positive and negative. Well, that's really important. Let's draw a little diagram. So say we've got our battery here, and we'll say that this is the positive and this is the negative. Well, when there's nothing connected to the battery, you know, it's just sitting there. It's not using up any electricity, and it's, you know, not causing anything to light up or move around. So it's just sitting there. But when you connect something to the positive and the negative, electric current is going to flow through that connection and hopefully be used up by something. In this case, it's not connected to anything except itself. And so that current is going to flow from, you know, positive to negative, but it's just going to keep flowing, and in this case, it's actually just going to heat up and possibly catch on fire. So we don't want that. We want to put something in between the positive and the negative to use that electric current, something like a LED. So let's draw our little LED here, and we'll give it some lights. And so now the current is going to flow from the positive side of the battery through the LED and to the negative side of the battery and cause the LED to light up, which is what we want. So, and we can even just test that out without, you know, building any paper circuit. If you take your coin cell battery and you take your LED, you'll notice that your LED probably has a, one end of it is a little bit longer and one end is a little bit shorter. Well, that LED has a positive and negative side also. The side with the longer leg is going to be the positive side, and the side with the shorter leg is going to be the negative. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to take my battery and kind of sandwich the battery between the legs of the LED, making sure to connect the positive to the positive and the negative to the negative, and you'll see that it's lighting up. So that's what we've got there. That's just our basic circuit. Now say like if one of the legs were to pop out and it's no longer connected, well, you see our LED isn't lighting up anymore. We'll call that a open circuit. So say like in this case, that connection got broken. Well, current can't flow through, and our LED is not gonna light up. Well, we can use that to our advantage. That is how we are able to get a switch on this door so that the LEDs only light up when you close the door. You can use the open circuit to your advantage to turn off the LED, but it's also good to keep in mind when we're putting our circuit together and if we notice it's not working, we might want to check for an open circuit. Another thing that could happen that could cause our LED to not light up is something called a short circuit, which would be like if a stray piece of wire or copper tape or anything accidentally connected the positive of the battery directly to the negative, and the current is gonna, instead of flowing to the LED, even if this is here, it's gonna travel the path of least resistance, and so it's not gonna wanna light up that LED, it's just gonna wanna connect directly to itself because there's nothing in the way to stop it. And so then your LED is not gonna light up, and just like before, your connection's gonna get really hot and maybe even catch on fire. So we wanna watch out for open circuits and short circuits. So yeah, I think that we've covered the basics of the circuit and we're ready to put our paper circuit house together. So I'm gonna take my piece of paper with my house template on it, and I'm just gonna fold it in half like it's a card. And what I'm gonna do is for the two spots where I've got windows and the door, I'm gonna cut these out. Now the door, I want to only cut out 3 of the sides so that I can fold it. So I'm gonna keep one of the sides attached, but the windows I'm gonna cut out completely. Now you can design this however you want. You can draw it, with colored pencils or markers, whatever you wanna do. Basically, you just wanna have 2 windows and a door, but you can have extra stuff too. So now I'm just gonna cut out these spots. Okay, I've got this all kind of cut up. You see I've got my 2 windows and then my door. I'm just gonna fold this back. And now I've got my door as well. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sketch in through these holes the places for our LEDs and the switch for our door. And then I'm gonna use that to sketch in the rest of the circuit on the inside of this kind of card. So I'm just, in the windows, I'm just gonna sketch in 2 little half circles for our LEDs, and then right where the door is, I'm just gonna kind of shade in so I know where I need to put the copper tape for our switch. Now if I fold it up, this is where I'm gonna sketch the circuit inside here. And as you maybe noticed before, what we're gonna end up doing is putting the battery on the corner of this page here, and we'll kind of fold the page down and then clip it in place. And that's where our battery is gonna be. And so then I'm just gonna create a line up at the top here, which will be the positive side of the battery, and then a line going down to the bottom of the page, and that'll be the negative side of the battery. So I'm just gonna recreate that now in this drawing. So I'm gonna draw a straight line across, and then I'm gonna draw down. Okay, so I've got something just like this. And so when we clip the LED in place, right, this will be the positive. And here, I'll even mark positive up at the top and negative down at the bottom. And then I'll have a straight line going down for each of the LEDs. And then there'll be some space in between and then a line for the negative side of the battery. And so when the door touches these pieces of copper tape, it's going to make a connection between these three pieces, connect them together, which will allow the current to flow through and light up the LEDs. Then when the door is not pressed against them, there's no connection and current is not going to flow, and we're going to have an open circuit. So that's the basic idea. Once you've got your LED sketched out, and of course it doesn't have to look exactly like this, it might look a little bit different, but this is the basic idea. Then what you can do is take your copper tape and kind of hold it up to the lines that you've marked out and just cut off the segments that you'll need. And you might just leave a little bit extra, cut it so it's a little bit longer, because we'll need a little bit of extra length, and I'll show you why in just a second. So now I'm just going to cut out the segments of the copper tape according to this plan I've sketched out. Okay, I should have enough here now. And one thing about this copper tape is that the top side is, copper. It's very conductive, so the current is going to flow right through it with no problem. The bottom side is very sticky, and so it's not going to flow through it. Current won't flow through the sticky side quite as well. And so there's a little trick that we'll use, to make all of our connections on here. So I'm just going to peel off the backing of this copper tape so that I can stick it down to the paper. There it goes. And now I'm gonna stick this down here. And what I'm gonna do is, in order to make this 90-degree angle that I've planned out, so see, I'll need to connect another piece of tape here. I'm gonna fold up the end of this copper tape, and I'm just gonna stick it onto itself. And so that the end of this copper tape, both sides are that nice shiny copper, and the sticky side I've kind of hidden under itself. And then I'll run the other copper tape, the next connection, will just sit right underneath it. So let me peel off the next piece. So, just like here, you see I've got that piece kind of flipped up, and then I'll flip it down, and I'm going to tape it in place. And that way, that it's the shiny side of the copper tape is connected to the shiny side, and so there's no interruption to that connection. So that's how we make that kind of special joint there, is you just fold the end of the tape together so that you kind of hide the sticky side, and then you put your next piece of tape underneath it, and then you just scotch tape it together so that that connection is nice and solid. Those two pieces of copper are always going to stay connected. And now I'm just going to go through and fill in the rest of these connections. And here actually I'm going to trim this long piece that I have for the LED and just cut out a segment in the middle to leave space for the LED. And then I'll do the same thing that I did before. where I, did that special joint where I fold the piece of tape onto itself, the copper tape onto itself. I'm gonna do that same thing for the LED because we also want the connection to the LED to be nice and solid. Because otherwise, if it's not solid and there's an interruption to that connection because of the sticky side of the tape, then we're gonna get, that open circuit that we talked about earlier. To put the LEDs in the middle here. And so remember how we talked about the positive and negative side? The slightly longer leg is going to be the positive, so I want to make sure to connect that up to the positive that I've marked up here at the top, where the positive of the battery is going to connect. And then the same for the negative side. We want to connect the negative to the negative. And so I'm just going to fold out these LED legs so that they're kind of flat like that. And oh no, it looks like I didn't leave quite enough room. There's kind of a gap here. The legs aren't quite long enough, so I'm just gonna scoot this piece of tape up a little bit and then stick it down again. And then I'm gonna kind of stick the leg underneath the tape and then secure it down with Scotch tape. And so we make sure that shiny side of the copper tape is coming into contact with the right leg of the LED. And then I'm going to do the same for the next LED. Just fold. Okay, so I think we're pretty much ready. You just want to make sure that those LEDs are making contact with the shiny side of the copper tape, and then you secure it all down with a piece of Scotch tape like I've done. You make sure that the positive side of the LED is connected to the positive side of your circuit like we've got up here, and the negative side to the negative side of the circuit like we've got down here. And now the next step will be to put on the back of our door here, the side that we're gonna press down to close the circuit, put some aluminum foil. Or you can just use a few pieces of the copper tape. You just wanna make sure that you press it down in the right spot so that it makes a connection between these three pieces of tape that we've got some space in between. Because right now there's space in between them, right? So there's no connection. And then when we press the door to it, it'll make a connection between those pieces of tape. So I'm just gonna tape the aluminum foil onto the back of this door. Okay, so I've got that taped onto the back now. You want to make sure to tape it onto the correct side, so it'll be on the inside of the card if you think about it that way. And when we press it down, it'll make that connection between those pieces of tape, copper tape inside. Now what we can do is we can take our battery and so this is the positive side of the circuit, so I want to connect the positive side. It's got the little plus on the battery there. And then I'm gonna fold the paper under and just make sure that it's actually connected to both sides, that the copper tape is in the right place. And then we'll fold it and press our tape down. Oh, we got one LED. Our other one is not lighting up. So what you can do is that if you notice that your LEDs are not lighting up, you want to double check, right, that you've got the positive and the negative side hooked up properly. And let me fold the legs down. Oh, you know what? I had it backwards. So let me turn it around. Okay, so that's always a good thing to double check, is if you've got your LEDs connected to the right side, positive to positive and negative to negative. Let's try it again. Oh, there we go. Both of our LEDs are lighting up. So if you get to this point and your LEDs aren't lighting up, or maybe they're flickering kind of like that, you want to make sure that all of your connections are good, that you're connecting the shiny side of the copper tape to the shiny side just by folding it over like we did before. And you secure everything down with some Scotch tape. And sometimes the LEDs can get kind of loose in here, so you want to make sure they're pressed down nice and really secure. And then you also might need to press a little harder on your door switch to make that nice strong connection. You see, if I press kind of loosely, it kind of cuts in and out. So you want to make sure that there's a nice solid connection always. Of course, you might also double check you've got your battery hooked up the right way, and just that everything in your circuit is right, that you've got positive going to positive and negative going to negative. You might also check maybe you have a dead battery, and if you want to check that, just like I did before where I pressed the LED directly to the battery, kind of sandwich the LED between sandwich the battery between the LED legs. You can do that trick just to see if your battery and your LED are actually working. So I hope that you had fun and had success in making your paper circuit house. Maybe you want to decorate it and make it really fancy. You could also put like tissue paper in the windows here just to give it a cool look so that it kind of hides the LEDs behind there. And maybe you have some other ideas, other designs for a switch. Maybe you have a different idea of how you could make a switch using the same idea. So I hope you had fun. Hopefully you learned a little bit about electronics and made a cool paper circuit house. Anyways, thanks for watching and building with me. I'll see you next time.